My sister moved 400 miles away just to stop coming home for Christmas. My parents called it abandonment. I called it survival. Kelly had been talking about St. Andrews since she was 11. The plan, the dream, the thing she mentioned so often it stopped sounding like ambition and started sounding like fact. Then, she turned 18 and quietly chose a university in London instead. When I asked why, she looked at me the way people look when they are about to say a small truth, standing in front of a much larger one. She said London meant she would only have to come home once a year. That was the whole reason. She rearranged her entire future around minimizing the time she spent in the house she grew up in. That house contained our brother Mike. Mike had been the golden boy since he showed talent on the rugby pitch at 14, which gave my parents a story to tell at parties and a reason to excuse everything he did afterward. He was a bully at school and worse at home, and my parents had a phrase they reached for every time Kelly came to them with something real. Siblings. Being siblings. He pulled her dress up in front of the entire family at a wedding when she was 15, and they called it a prank. I was at university by the time the worst of it started, and my parents were not the kind of people who listened to concerns about Mike, regardless of distance. So Kelly left, and kept leaving. Every year she came home a little less, built her life in southern England with the specific thoroughness of someone who understood that distance was the only protection she had ever been offered. Then, she met Jake. She called me the day after they met, and sounded like a different person, lit up in a way I had not heard from her in years. I met him several times visiting her down south, and everything she said was true. Good, funny, treated my sister like she was the most interesting person in any room. His family were warm. He was also 6'3", and had been doing martial arts since he was 4, which became relevant the first Christmas she brought him home. Mike decided to pour a bowl of water over Kelly's head in front of everyone. Jake stepped in front of her and told Mike very clearly and very quietly not to even think about it. My parents tried to smooth it over. Mike whined about it being a joke. Jake told him that if he pulled one more prank on Kelly, he would return the favor personally and in detail. Kelly and Jake left an hour later, and Mike, my mother, and my father have had a problem with Jake ever since. Kelly never came back after that. The wedding invitation went out in February, and Mike's name was not on it. My parents were furious. They threatened not to attend. Kelly told them that was fine, and she would ask our grandfather to walk her down the aisle instead. I was at my parents' house weeks later when my mother started in about the wedding. I sat and listened longer than I should have before something ran out. I asked what exactly she had expected. I told her Mike could not keep a relationship or a job or function without someone making his meals, because they had spent his entire life making sure he never had to. I told her Kelly had moved 400 miles away at 18 because it was the only exit available, and they had called her ungrateful for it ever since. My mother asked me to leave. My father called that evening and screamed about taking sides. I told him he had been a terrible father to Kelly and did not deserve to walk her down the aisle. He hung up. The wedding was in August. Our parents did not come. Mike did not come. Our grandfather walked Kelly down the aisle, and she cried the entire way, which she had told me she absolutely would not do. I cried watching her because I could see on her face what it meant to be in a room full of people who had chosen to be there, with a man beside her who had stepped in front of her when it mattered, surrounded by none of the people who never once had. My mother has been different since then. She showed up to my son's birthday with Pokemon cards sourced from Seoul, which he will probably never forgive her for making him feel so much about. We started meeting for lunch. She went on strike at home, stopped cooking and cleaning, moved into the spare room, wrote Kelly a letter. Kelly went from no contact to low contact. Neither of us had expected that. My father is a different story. Still defending Mike, still finding reasons. Some people only have the one story they know how to tell about themselves, and my father told his a long time ago. My mother knows she chose wrong for years. She cannot give Kelly her teenage years back, or uncancel St. Andrews, or undo the damage of being told the person hurting you is just being a sibling. What she can do is show up differently now. Kelly is happy, 400 miles away in a house where nobody has ever called cruelty a prank, and every time I talk to her, she sounds like that first call after she met Jake. Lit up and easy, like someone who finally stopped working so hard just to feel safe. She got exactly what she moved toward. That is more than most people manage.
According to my belief, when family enables sibling abuse, create distance to heal and protect your future.